Hello, and welcome to Let's Talk, a new series of candid conversations covering the issues facing freelance professionals today. I'm Tom Rizzo, your host, Managing Director and founder of Plectrum Advisors, an investment advisory firm based in Los Angeles. On each episode of Let's Talk, I'll be speaking with some of the most plugged-in experts to help you and me make sense of today's changing environment and to help you be smarter about how to approach work and life. So let's get started. Today's guest on Let's Talk is David Zusman. He's one of the founding members of the Board of Trustees of WAAM, which stands for We Are All Music, a philanthropic organization focused on helping those in need in the music community. David has a very interesting story. He grew up as a musician and after college pursued a career in finance. David started a very successful private equity and venture firm over 20 years ago, and he now spends his time both as a composer and with the We Are All Music Foundation, working to give back to the music community. I really enjoyed my conversation with David, and I know you'll find his latest philanthropic venture to be worthy of your attention. Welcome, and thanks for joining us on a new episode of Let's Talk. I'm really excited about our guest today. His name is David Zusman. I'll tell you a little bit about him as we go here, but usually we're talking on this podcast about how you can do things to maximize the growth of your money or the ways that you can shelter your money from taxes in a legal way, or ways that you can properly take the proper amount of risk and that sort of thing. And today we're actually going to be talking about a different aspect of money, and that's philanthropy. And this is the first time we've talked about this. So we're going to talk to David today. He actually has a foundation that has as its mission to help others, especially those that are in the music industry and the entertainment industry. And he'll tell you a little bit more about that. But he's got a very interesting background. David is both a musician and a professional investor, a very successful professional investor. He had started a private equity and venture firm a while ago, 20 years ago, had some great success with that. And he's got some really great things to say about how he has structured his philanthropy foundation. And I'm very interested in hearing how he's figured out how to structure this thing so that it can help the maximum number of people. So I'll let David talk a little bit more about all of that. So without further ado, David, welcome, and thanks for being a guest on Let's Talk today. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tom, for inviting me. I think what you're doing in your business for music community is fantastic. I think oftentimes we've talked about this, musicians are so busy with moving from one project to the next that they forget that they do have their money they have to manage, they have to grow it, they have to plan for the future, tax, other things that we've talked about. And philanthropy obviously is an important question that comes up, especially in the music industry, where people are thinking about how do I give back to others, and they witness the power of music every day, especially with the pandemic that's now happening around us, and everything else. So thanks again for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Can you talk a little bit about, tell me a little bit about the organization, and then more importantly, how you came to found this and what its origins are?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting because my background, as we've talked about, I started playing piano when I was 5, 6, and saxophone when I was 8, and songwriting when I was 10 and 11, and always was surrounded by music growing up, and played in bands, and but what I ended up after the University of Virginia moving into the business world, where over the last 20 3 years have invested successfully, built businesses, but also maintained the music influence and the things that I was doing as a songwriter and a composer and a producer. I'm here coming from you from my studio in Montclair, New Jersey. But after building a successful business life, I had, for many years when I lived in New York City, been involved in a group foundation called the Robin Hood Foundation. And this was founded by Paul Tudor Jones, who was also a University of Virginia graduate. And I saw what they were doing and the success that their organization had. And, they focus particularly on the poverty and issues surrounding poverty. But what made them really successful was how they evaluated where they gave their money and the accountability that they brought to donors. And they're focused on metrics of success and evaluating the charitable giving much like you would evaluate an investment or evaluate a business, and taking that approach, which I think is really important. I think we'll probably end up talking more and more about that topic on this show today. But when I, now I have kids of my own, and I looked at my life a couple of years ago, and a number of us in the Montclair area were talking about how do we give back? How do we take a portion of our money and donate it wisely? And the people in this network were in the music world, but they were also in the marketing and entrepreneurial world, in the finance world. And we all had the same approach, that we wanted to take a very methodical, accountable approach to giving our money, and where we could see the best impact, where we saw really a true change in people's lives and an impact. So we founded about 18 months ago now, the We Are All Music Foundation, which people can find at weareallmusic.org. And we have become the central voice for music nonprofits throughout the country, where our mission is to give to the best in class and support them with financially, but also with development of co-initiatives, shining a spotlight on what they do and their data that shows definitive change in people's lives and the benefit on society, and to really build a foundation where we can do great things for people ultimately. And yeah, we can spend some time talking about that and understand, how we take that investment approach to allocating money, and if that's where you want to go too.
Yeah, I think so. I absolutely want to cover that. Let's talk a little bit before we do about how do you vet who it is that you're giving money to. I would imagine, as your foundation is getting to be better known, that you have many requests, you have many people that are in need. And tell me a little bit about how you go about determining who it is that you would give the money to, and what some of those metrics are.
Yeah, that is critical. Great question. We really think about a couple of key factors, right? When we set out to do this, we figured in our first year we would have 80, 100 charitable organizations reaching out to us, applying. And just so you know, there's about 400 charitable organizations in the country, probably in total of about $200 million, maybe a little bit more in revenues that they use to create change and to do the type of social things that we're doing. And in our first year, we had 287 of them apply.
Wow.
Which is astounding.
Yeah.
And we heard feedback, testimonials, we've had the CEOs and founders of the top 5, 10, 20 organizations. We've had artists like Johnny Resnick of the Google Dolls, DMC, from Run DMC. We've had producers from Tom Lord Algae to many others look at what we're doing and say, wow, that's interesting. This universe really needed a central voice.
Hmm.
So what do we look for? We look for leadership. Number one, you have to have a well-seasoned team with a track record and experience at the helm, making sure things are done in a very organized process, methodical way. Otherwise, the wheels come off the cart. So the evaluation of leadership, the same way you would evaluate a CEO or a leadership team at any business or any stock you might want to put your money into, is absolutely critical. Everything starts there. The second thing is really the effectiveness of the programs, and whether people have the data and the science to back up that effectiveness. A lot of times the music industry gets accused of, and people will say, oh, well, music, that's a nice to have, but that's not a need to have, right? And what the data and the science shows when you really look at the effectiveness of many of these programs is that it's an absolute need to have. And it's an underappreciated means in these social causes, okay? So what do I mean by social causes? I mean, we're not here to hand money out to musicians or to concert halls and opera halls. There's a lot of people already doing that in their local communities. We are here to support social causes in healthcare, health and wellness, education, and in underserved communities, right? Where really music is the agent of change to affect and benefit people's lives in those social causes, right? This is a social charity, social foundation. And what we find is that these organizations, the best in class organizations, have really measured the impact and can provide real tangible data. Like we talked to one organization who says that their schools that they bring their music programs in had 29, 35% type attendance rates. And remember, these were, inner city, underserved, Title I type school situations. But when they brought music programs in that the charitable organization funded, supported, educated the school, those attendance rates doubled. Okay. Things like groups that have the mentor-mentee type model in the education area, where test scores went up in 95% of students that were in these music programs versus less than 50% for people that were not in the programs. So if you look at some of the organizations that we've partnered with, that we've provided grants and supports to, there are groups like Education Through Music, which brings these core education programs directly into underserved communities and into the schools. It's groups like Guitars Over Guns that has this mentor-mentee model that creates these after-school programs and creates more of a life mentor on top of the music programs. And companies and charitable organizations like Hip Hop Public Health, which is incredible, by the way, has created educational music videos that have now been viewed over 300 million times. Wow. And these videos are with major A-list hip hop and rap artists, because that's the language today for the youth. in the type of communities that oftentimes we're serving. And it's everything from the fight against obesity and helping stroke victims and washing your hands during the pandemic. And they create these videos and educational tutorials on how educators in schools can use these videos as a language to get through to the kids. So we are making a huge difference in these social causes, but we must see tangible data, real science. We must see metrics of success so that we know that our money is actually making a difference. The other thing we think about oftentimes is scalability. We're looking for charitable organizations that have already been doing this for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, that have shown that data and shown that they're sustainable. And that if we sort of, as they say, pour gasoline on the fire, if we go and provide them, if we shine a spotlight, if we give them the stage, if we take that tangible metrics of success and we bring them to donors, that they will understand just how much of a must-have these programs are, and will bring lots of money in. But those programs also need to have the ability to scale, to really grow, because we're all about trying to do this nationwide. Some of the organizations I just mentioned are serving your own community in 46 schools in LA with 19,000 kids served, education through music. So this isn't something that's just East Coast or West Coast or one city versus another. We're looking for growth, and we're looking for scalability as well. So those are some of the metrics and things that are important to us.
It's really, it's just so fantastic that you've got that kind of a vision of this kind of thing. I know you're kind of preaching to the choir here, both to me and to most of our listeners, in terms of the value of music outside of what the actual playing of the music, that it definitely permutes into other aspects of your life in a really positive way. I had an interesting experience with, I was working with one of the philanthropic organizations in town here run by Mitch Glickman. It's called the Symphonic Jazz Orchestra. And Mitch is bringing music education into schools in one of the towns here in Los Angeles. And a few years ago, I taught for a year the second grade classes. And it was, first of all, second graders are awesome. It was really, I don't have that much contact with kids of that age anymore, and this was a thrilling experience to me. But one of the things that we did in the class is we did a lot of singing, and I'd bring a guitar, and we'd bring other musicians in and play and try to educate them a little bit about music history and how music sounds and that kind of thing. But we'd sing, like early in the day. The very first thing we'd do, we'd sing, because they weren't instrumentalists yet, but they could all sing. And so the very first thing to do, I'd pick up the guitar, play middle C on the guitar, and say, okay, we're going to sing do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and here's the first note. And so I'd play the note on the guitar, and then I'd say, can you sing that note back to me? And of course they would. Well, about 2 months into the program, I put the guitar down, just like as a little experiment, and I said, who remembers what the first note sounds like? Who remembers what middle C sounds like? And it shocked me. 90% of the time, the kids remembered the note, the pitch, like exactly. So here you have like an example of, you just expose kids to some kind of a intelligent approach to music, and this stuff is going in on a really deep level.
Yes.
And what does that mean for other growth and your ability to do math and ability to be able to do other concepts? I'm not a scientist, but I have a feeling it really seeps into all parts of the brain. And
Absolutely. It's and this is really what our organization is all about. It's like we just said, it's $200 million of money that goes into music nonprofits for social causes. That is so small compared to what goes into cancer research and goes into other areas. And it's not to say that those other health areas are massively important too, right? But there hasn't been enough real, with led by data, led by science, to really shine the spotlight here on how much of a difference it can make. I don't know if you know, but we're having, we do our own, web series called The Power of Music, which we host on our Facebook Live, page. And our next episode, we're having a music therapist on this. And usually when I tell people we have a music therapist, they go, well, I know what a therapist is, but what's a music therapist? Most people have no idea. But music therapy has become increasingly important to help areas like anxiety and depression and addiction. It's even being used where if a newborn child is having a problem, relaxing, like imagine you have a newborn child and the child is not of the proper weight, right? Because the child is so active and it's using up so much energy and it can't grow. And they really need the child to grow. They'll bring in a music therapist who will come in and start playing, right? And slowly the baby's heartbeat will sync to the music and slow down the baby and calm the baby, and then that baby will begin to grow. And I could go into application after application. And so music therapy is growing rapidly all around the country, and also charitable organizations that tie into health and wellness and things like music therapy as well. And so being in that we're in a pandemic, with, these anxiety and depression and things that are so much more acute, I just wanted to bring that up as an area. And to your point about early childhood education, right? Look how what you're saying is that how these minds, their habits can be shaped at such an early age. Right. And in a lot of these underserved communities, they don't always have the parental attention, unfortunately. Okay. And the school systems are sometimes that place where they can get guidance, right? And to me, you have to fund the music programs. You have to fund things like what you did with Middle C, or what Hip Hop Public Health is doing towards education through hip hop music. You've got to be able to reach kids at an early age. And music has been proven time and time again to be the most impactful method of stimulus, communication, attention grabbing, things that can really make a difference in people's lives, for sure.
Yeah. I saw that firsthand with my little bit of experience that I talked about, and I certainly remember it as a child growing up. I was interested in music at a very early age, but I can trace back some of my just my mental development in all areas to paying attention to sound and vibration and tension and release and what it does. And just, I didn't know those terms or that kind of thing, but was certainly paying attention to it, at an early age.
Absolutely.
So talk a little bit about, when we did a little preparation call the other day, you talked about the knowledge that you gathered as a professional investor and the things that you brought to bear that made you successful in that way. You've brought a lot of those same elements to both developing this foundation and in trying to vet who to give the money to. Can you talk a little bit about that, about how those things are similar?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about a couple of things increasingly important today. Diversity, right? If you look at the charitable organizations that we're supporting and ultimately down the chain to the very lives that they're impacting, it's underserved communities. It's often people of color. It's a diverse set of individuals with a diverse geographies, locations, backgrounds, etc. And we wanted to have in our organization that level of diversity matched in our leadership and our board and our advisory board and within our volunteers, right? I think more and more you're seeing this in corporate America, where if you're going to sell a product, if you're going to, you know, go and have a customer base and you're a for-profit business, you sort of need to bring in a broad set of views and have an organization with a diversity that often at least matches the type of people who are your customers or you're impacting, right? So we've strived to do that. I think we can do even better than we've done. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that, you know, we really have to put an emphasis on ethics, integrity, accountability. So, you know, when we are evaluating charitable organizations, and we're also building our own organization, we need things that are ultra transparent, right? You know, when you have a corporation that's entrusting us with hundreds of thousands of dollars and maybe $1 million, and, you know, they want that money to get into organizations and have the greatest impact, everything starts with being trusted. Everything starts with making sure that we're able to deliver back to the donor, the investor, a level of reporting, accountability, metrics that shows that the money that they've given is going as far as it possibly could, right? So we're very big internally when we talk about our committees and our communication about prioritizing time and our leadership and our accountability. And then also really requiring that level of monitoring and transparency back to the charities, right? So we'll talk to them regularly as part of our partnership. We'll require reporting. The, you know, application process for grants was fairly extensive. We now have the largest database of information on music nonprofits in the country.
Wow.
And we think there's a lot of ways actually ultimately to use that data to provide feedback back to the charitable organizations about ways that they can improve their organizations and overall improve the overall music for social causes, that category that we're striving to grow. So everything with integrity and accountability is really important. And I'd say the other thing that is particularly important is having, going back again to data, is having a pretty big feedback loop, and a quick and accountable feedback loop. So what do I mean? If you look at like what made Amazon so successful, it was the ratings and the feedback loop and the reviews, right? As new businesses in almost every industry adapt and adopt with technology, and all of a sudden the businesses that used to not have a lot of customer interactions start to have a lot more customer interactions, that technology and that feedback loop becomes critically important in business models. And so for us, when we look at these charities and we look at the data and we're providing advice to them and we're thinking about how we're going to build our own organization, we want to do things as efficiently as possible. We want to adopt technologies that create that feedback loop. So our social media campaigns on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, through our website, weareallmusic.org, it's all designed to really put ourselves out there, demonstrate the impact, but also to get the feedback loop, to be able to make changes, to see where the market is heading, to see where and what topics the world and our donors are really deeming the most important, and address those on a timely manner, right? These are things you would want any business to do that you were investing in. And, you know, when we first started to talk, you know, because look, I put $1 billion to work in the private equity markets. You know, early in my career, I ran $1 billion in public investments, and I've looked at hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of companies. And what I tell people who want to give money is make sure if you're going to give the money, that the money is going to have an impact, right? I mean, some of the people that we're talking about in your network and my network, money is not unlimited, right? You need to support your family. You need to be able to save for retirement. You need to be prudent. But, you know, how good it feels to give back to society if you haven't done it is incredible. And I really do believe that you want to have some portion of your wealth or your income that you're giving money to something that you believe in, right? So first of all, make sure you believe in it. Most times what ends up happening is people get a call from a friend or an email from a friend. Hey, I'm involved with this, and we're hosting a gala or a dinner or something, and you know, can you write me a check for $200?
Yep.
Right?
Been there.
And it's not to say that you shouldn't support a friend and you shouldn't, you know, do those things. But, you know, not every charitable organization uses the money wisely. Sometimes their cost structures are out of whack. Sometimes their leadership is changing over. Sometimes they go out of business. There have been a lot of stories about misappropriations in the charitable world. These are all reasons we believed that for music in particular, that we needed to have the We Are All Music Foundation as the central voice. So I would encourage people to do their research into the organizations that they're supporting, the same way that they would do their research ultimately into investments that they were making. Or to make sure that you're partnered with, you know, a foundation who you think has their own evaluation process or really understands how to cut through it all and have an impact. Because if you're going to give the money, make an impact. Make the best impact that you could possibly do with it, would be my advice.
That's good advice. Can you give us an example without divulging, you know, specific names or that kind of thing? Could you pick one organization that you have supported and give us a little bit idea on what type of work they do and how it was that you came to find that they were the right person to give the money to?
Yeah, sure. Look, I don't want to single out one, because then I'm going to be asked by all of the groups we support, why did you pick that one? But I can tell you that we just made 8 grants to charitable organizations out of the 287 applications that we got.
Wow.
About half of our effort was quantitatively evaluating. So again, we use all the information from the applications and the database that we created to quantitatively rank and look at things on the metrics that we had created. And then half the process is qualitatively really extensive research and interviews with the organizations to understand their programs, their effectiveness, look at the data, and understand how we could scale it. And we did that on probably the top 30 in the database, and then got really deep with maybe 15 or so. Ultimately made 8 grants. Our top 3, which we call our Power of Music grants, were given to Hip Hop Public Health, which, as I mentioned before, creates the educational videos using hip hop style music to really reach kids in underserved communities. and through this language of hip hop and through their educational videos. And they focused again on various health causes, from nutrition to the pandemic, washing hands, to other areas like stroke victims and things like this, recognizing strokes. Another group, Education Through Music, that I mentioned, is about bringing into schools that have no music programs a full-time core curriculum music teacher, and then watching what it does to attendance, test scores, and culture, and things that are impacting directly the students. And then Guitars Over Guns was one where they created this mentor-mentee model, after-school type programs where real gigging musicians were working directly with students on music projects, but on a continual basis, and really not just mentoring them on music, but being there to help them through all the things that they're going through in their life. And the one thing that connects all of these together, beyond obviously the leadership, the data, the science, all the things that we looked for, what they did, every one of these programs comes back to instilling confidence in these kids, right? Because a lot, and I heard this on another podcast, so that I don't want to take credit for this statement, but it was so good. I heard that when kids at a really, really young age, that like 3, 4, that they make a mess, right? Like they color with crayons and clay, and you've seen it in your house. It's a mess, right? But very quickly they're told, they're told, clean it up. Don't be messy, right? And then they say, ooh, I'm getting yelled at. I shouldn't take a risk. I shouldn't take a risk, right? I shouldn't be creative. I shouldn't take a risk. And then they don't take a risk, and they don't take a risk, and then they don't have the confidence to take the risks. And sometimes it's about putting yourself out there. And so a lot of what these programs really instill is life confidence. With the music programs, yes, it's amazing with anxiety and depression, addiction, and with attendance in early childhood education, and in communicating that you should be, actually washing your hands in a pandemic for 20 seconds. But it's really about ultimately that trigger in the brain where they say, I can translate what I'm learning into music into how I deal with social groups, how I deal with my parents, how I deal with communication, how I deal with problems when they come out. And allow me at times to say, I am going to go do that. I can take that risk. I have the confidence now, right? And so that if you think about it, is critically important. And so I'm really thankful that I had a team, because I couldn't have done this alone. In fact, we have our founding members of our board of trustees and our advisory board and our volunteers. We're 22 people strong now in this foundation. So this has been a monumental effort over the past 18 months to do something where we can take music for social causes that's been underappreciated, and over the next decade or longer, we can double that. We can make a huge impact in social causes and lives. Starting with these first 8 grants that we've made, which we think are our best in class, and we hope to partner over the long term and scale them. We're not sort of just giving money to one group one year and switching it all up the next year. These are long-term partnerships that we're building, and just thankful to be here. Appreciate having me on, and frankly, shining a spotlight on us.
Well, it's it's our pleasure to bring the the level of intelligence and thought and care that your organization embodies. And whenever I recommend something to either my clients or my network or that kind of thing, this is what we're looking to bring to people. Is if you are looking for places to direct your philanthropy, here's a spot that is, your dollars are going to be well used and well thought out. And as you've articulated, that's not necessarily always the case. Even with, upstanding organizations, it doesn't necessarily go there. So we really appreciate your focus here, David. And can you give the viewers a little bit of information about if they want to contact you, or if they want to find out more about the organization, either from a grant application or if they're interested in donating? How would they get a hold of you?
Sure. So first of all, our managing director, Mary Crawford, is fantastic. Has been with us from the beginning, and the information on our whole organization is on the web at weareallmusic.org. So there's a lot of information. You can donate directly through the website and through lots of other means. We've got information on that website where if you want to learn more, you can email us. You can reach out directly to Mary Crawford as well to learn more about the organization. If you are a charitable organization and you look to partner with us or seek grants, you can also learn information on the website about the things we're looking for and how to apply. And of course, about once a month, we do our Power of Music series, web series. We focus on the power of music across education, health and wellness, underserved communities. So that's a great way to learn more. It's Facebook Live right now, and also the replays are on YouTube. And we'd encourage people to learn more. You know what my motto is? Do the research. Sure, we'd love to just get a check, right? I know that your money is going to go directly to these charities, best in class, and it's going to make an impact. But learn more about us. Don't just write a check. Learn more about what we're doing and how we're organized, and that's how you should invest, even if it's in philanthropic giving.
Well, we appreciate it, and that certainly lines up with all of my investment philosophy, and what I do for my clients is we are very, very well educated about what we're doing, and you ask all the tough questions, and that's how you end up coming out on top. And David, it's really a pleasure to have you here and to learn about your organization, and I certainly learned a lot today about how you operate and what there is to do. And would like to just really thank you for taking the time to do this. And we want to thank all the listeners today for participating in this episode of Let's Talk with David Zusman. And we will put all the information about your website and contact at the end of this program. So thanks again, everybody, for watching. And David, thanks again for being here. And I look forward to the next time, David.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it. Let's make a change with the music.
Yes,
thanks again.
You bet. Thanks, David. Take care.
Take care.
Well, that's it for today's broadcast. Thanks so much for joining us today. I hope you'll come back for more. We've got some really great guests lined up, and we'll be sure to let you know when the episodes are available. Thanks again for watching.